Dr. Schwartz, Professor Emeritus of Mathematics at the College of Staten Island, USA, is the author of Judaism and Global Survival, Mathematics and Global Survival, and Judaism and Vegetarianism. He is the associate producer of A Sacred Duty, applying Jewish values to help heal the world. A powerful documentary made with award-winning filmmaker Mr. Lionel Friedberg, which shows how the earth can be returned to a pristine state following the true teachings of the Jewish religion. Dr. Richard Schwartz is the president of Jewish Vegetarians of North America, JVNA, and the Society of Ethical Religious Vegetarians, SERV, and the director of the initiative Veg Climate Alliance. With the author's permission, we now present an article written by Dr. Richard Schwartz entitled Veganism's Essential Role in Preventing an Unprecedented Global Catastrophe.
Global catastrophe or sustainable future. It will depend largely on our food choices. It may seem naive to argue that dietary shifts can make a major difference in responding to today's many crises. But if we stopped raising the current 60 billion farmed animals that are slaughtered annually worldwide, it would make a tremendous difference with regard to many, if not all, of today's current problems. Let's consider how. First, it is important to recognize that the world is rapidly heading toward an unprecedented catastrophe from global climate change and other environmental threats. There are almost weekly reports of severe droughts, heat waves, storms, flooding, wildfires, and meltings of polar ice caps and glaciers. While these events have occurred due to an average temperature increase of less than 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit in the past 100 years, global climate scientists, including those with the Nobel Prize-winning UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, are projecting an increase of from 2 to 11 degrees Fahrenheit in the next 100 years, which would have devastating effects on humanity and all of life on the planet.
And we are talking about threats that must be addressed very soon. Some climate scientists, including Dr. James Hansen, director of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA, Goddard Institute for Space Studies, are warning that global warming could reach a tipping point and spin out of control within a few years with disastrous consequences unless major changes soon occur. Scientists at the February 2009 annual meeting of the American Association for the Advancement of Science indicated that global warming will likely increase more rapidly than expected because greenhouse gas emissions, or GHGs, have increased faster than recent predictions, and increased temperatures are setting off positive feedback, or self-reinforcing mechanisms in global ecosystems. There is increasing awareness of the need to make major changes in many phases of society to reduce global climate change. However, most lists of recommendations ignore or give little attention to the impact of our diets on greenhouse gases. A landmark 2006 report by the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization estimated that livestock production globally is responsible for more greenhouse gases in CO2 equivalents than the world's entire transportation sector combined, or 18% of worldwide anthropogenic greenhouse gases for livestock versus 13.5% for transportation. The report, Livestock's Long Shadow, also projects that the world's current population of about 60 billion farmed animals will double in 50 years if human population growth and dietary trends continue. The resulting increase in greenhouse gases would largely negate reduced greenhouse gas emissions from improved efficiencies in transportation, electricity, and other sectors and conservation steps, and make it extremely difficult, if not impossible, to reach the greenhouse gas reductions that climate experts think are essential to avoid a climate disaster.
Expert recognition of the importance of diet in preventing global warming is growing. In the fall of 2008, Dr. Rajendra Pachauri, chair of the IPCC, which shared a Nobel Peace Prize with former U.S. President Mr. Al Gore in 2008, called on people in the developed world to give up meat for 1 day a week initially and decrease meat consumption from there.
The main reason that animal agriculture's contribution is so great is that farmed animals, especially cattle and other ruminants, emit methane as part of their digestive processes, and methane is about 23 times as potent as CO2 in producing global warming when standard 100-year periods are considered. However, since most methane survives in the atmosphere for less than 20 years, if a 20-year period is considered, methane is about 72 times as potent as CO2. By contrast, CO2 is in the atmosphere for hundreds of years, and its impact is reduced by the predominantly cooling aerosols emitted by typical CO2 sources like smokestacks and tailpipes. Since methane contributes a significant amount of greenhouse gases in CO2 equivalents, and since farmed animals and their manure are by far the major source of methane, and since methane is in the atmosphere for only a short time, a major societal shift to plant-based diets would have a substantial and very rapid effect in reducing global climate change. Having major world leaders call for such a change, preferably after publicly announcing suitable changes in their own diets, could very dramatically increase awareness of the threats of global warming and the need for major dietary and other lifestyle changes. Such changes could provide some breathing space during which other important changes could be made.
When we return, we will look at the other very significant reasons for all people to adopt the vegan diet to avert global disaster. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television.
Additional factors that make switches to plant-based diets even more important are 1. The production of animal products causes about 9% of total CO2 emissions from the production of pesticides and fertilizer, use of irrigation pumps, extensive refrigeration, and other processes. 2. Nitrous oxides are emitted from animals' manure and from chemical fertilizer used to grow feed crops, and these gases are almost 300 times as potent as CO2 in producing warming. 3. The burning of rainforests to create grazing land and land to grow feed crops for animals releases substantial CO2 and also destroys trees that would absorb CO2. 4. Because they feast on the charred remains of these trees, termites are perhaps the fastest growing animal species on the planet, and they also emit methane as part of their digestive processes. Taking all of the above factors into account, the UN FAO estimate that animal agriculture emits 18% of anthropogenic greenhouse gases in CO2 equivalents is very likely significantly lower than the true number. Major shifts to vegan diets would also provide substantial relief to many other threats to humanity.
Widespread hunger is an increasingly important issue. A June 2009 UN Food and Agriculture report indicated that the number of chronically hungry people passed the 1 billion mark, or almost 1 person in 6, for the first time. An estimated 20 million people, mostly children, die annually from hunger and its effects, and many more suffer permanent physical or mental damage due to insufficient nutrition. While more than enough grain is produced today to feed all of the world's people, over 70% of the grain produced in the United States and almost 40% produced worldwide are fed to animals raised for slaughter. The hunger situation is likely to become even more critical as world population continues to increase, and droughts, reduced soil fertility, storms, and other effects of global warming reduce food production.
It is projected that half of the world's people will live in areas chronically short of water by 2050. Some climate experts are calling this the century of drought. Many U.S. regions have experienced severe droughts for the past few years. According to California's governor, the state's drought has resulted in its wildfire season, which used to last a few months, now lasting all year round. Major parts of Australia have experienced drought for 10 years, and there are fears that this may become a permanent condition. Israel is facing the worst drought in its history, one so severe that the level in the Sea of Galilee dropped to a level too low to have water pumped from it. The dietary connection is that it takes up to 14 times as much water per person for a typical animal-based diet than for a vegan diet. The amount of water necessary to raise one steer to maturity would float a naval destroyer. Also, as indicated above, animal-based agriculture contributes significantly to global warming, which contributes to droughts and to the melting of glaciers and the reduced flow of rivers and streams and levels of lakes and ponds.
A recent report by 11 retired U.S. generals and admirals indicated that global warming is a multiplier effect for potential violence. They pointed out that there will be increasing numbers of desperate refugees fleeing floods, storms, droughts, wildfires, heat waves, and other conditions caused or worsened by global climate change, and this increases the potential for instability, violence, terrorism, and war. Several experts assert that a major factor behind the recent violence in Darfur is the severe drought that has afflicted the area and created many refugees.
Species of plants and animals are disappearing at what many experts consider the fastest rate in history. One major reason is the rapid destruction of tropical rainforests, where over half of the species of plants and animals live, at a very rapid rate to create pasture land and land to raise feed crops for animals. One study indicated an average of 55 square feet of rainforest are destroyed for every quarter-pound hamburger patty produced and exported for consumption in a fast food market. A recent report indicated that our oceans may be virtually free of fish by 2048 because huge trawlers put out very wide nets that capture all marine life in its area.
There is currently an epidemic of heart disease, various types of cancer, and other chronic degenerative diseases. Efforts to treat these diseases has resulted in soaring medical costs, which have resulted in major deficits and other financial problems at national, state, and local levels. These financial difficulties reduce money available for environmental protection and for many other essential services. Yet there is little effort to inform people that well-balanced, nutritious vegan diets can prevent, alleviate, and sometimes reverse diseases. Instead, there are major debates about how to end the current dysfunctional medical system in which millions of people have no or inadequate medical insurance coverage.
Many more examples of problems made worse by animal-based agriculture can be given, related to such issues as the destruction of coral reefs, soil erosion and depletion, animal wastes polluting our waters, and animal-initiated diseases such as swine flu.
In view of the above and more, the world's people face a major choice. We can continue basically with current practices as our planet continues on its increasingly rapid path to an unparalleled cataclysm. Or we can adopt healthy plant-based diets and other practices that can help shift our very imperiled world to a sustainable path. If we fail to act, and soon, how will we explain our inaction to future generations?
Our sincere appreciation, Dr. Richard Schwartz, for allowing us to share your informative presentation of our need to switch to the plant-based diet immediately to ensure our planetary survival. With Godspeed, may global citizens heed the call and join in the movement to save our one and only Earth home. Thank you for your thoughtful presence today. Up next is Words of Wisdom after Noteworthy News. May you be ever more blessed with heavenly insight and love.
For more details, please visit www.suprememastertv.com/EE.